It doesn't cut emissions, but it is cutting into Trudeau's political fortunes. It's the carbon tax, and it's one of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's biggest failures. Trudeau really stepped in it when he decided to remove the carbon tax from furnace oil for 3 years and leave 97% of Canadians out in the cold. It was a cynical political ploy, and it backfired big time. Even in Atlantic Canada, where Trudeau tried to buy off his MPs with the carve-out, 77% of people in the region support carbon tax relief for all. But Trudeau's real mistake wasn't providing relief. His real mistake is that he never truly won the hearts and minds of the people. He was never honest with Canadians about the real pain caused by the carbon tax, and he lost credibility early on. Just before the 2019 election, his then Environment Minister said the government had no intention to keep raising the carbon tax beyond 11 cents per litre of gasoline in 2022. All that changed after that election. Well, folks, it's now 2023 and the carbon tax has increased beyond 11 cents per litre. It's now 14 cents per litre of gas, and Canadians are in uproar. And how do you think Canadians are going to feel when Trudeau continues to crank up his carbon tax to 37 cents per litre of gas as he plans to do? Not great. Trudeau and his ministers love to repeat the myth that 8 out of 10 families get more money back in rebates than they get back that they pay in carbon tax. But the obvious reality is that the government can't raise taxes, skim some off the top to pay for hundreds of new administration bureaucrats, and somehow make taxpayers better off with rebates. The obvious reality is that the carbon tax will cost the average family up to $710 this year, even after those rebates. That is from the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the government's own independent, nonpartisan budget watchdog. The government wants you to think that the carbon tax helps the environment. But the carbon tax doesn't cut emissions, it cuts your budget. British Columbia had the first, and for a long time, the costliest carbon tax in Canada. It first imposed its carbon tax in 2008. Between 2007 and 2019, the last year before the pandemic and government lockdowns brought the economy to a screeching halt, emissions went, you guessed it, up. But even if the carbon tax could reduce emissions at home, Canada's emissions are not large enough to materially impact climate change, as the PBO explains. So making it more expensive for you to live here in Canada does absolutely nothing to reduce emissions in places like China, Russia, India, or the United States. And that leads to Trudeau's diplomatic failure. The world's largest economy, the United States, rejects carbon taxes. President Joe Biden, a Democrat, hasn't imposed one. And good luck getting Republicans to impose a carbon tax. The United States is the rule, not the exception. About 75% of countries do not have a national carbon tax. Meanwhile, Canadians are paying 2. And while Trudeau raised taxes, peer countries like the United Kingdom, Sweden, Australia, South Korea, the Netherlands, Germany, Norway, Ireland, India, Israel, Italy, New Zealand, Portugal, among others, have cut fuel taxes. And if the carbon tax is so essential for Trudeau's climate crusade, shouldn't all Canadians pay the same carbon tax rate? Well, that's not what is happening. In Alberta, a driver pays a federal carbon tax of 14 cents per litre of gas. In Quebec, the carbon tax is about 12 cents per litre of gas. And by 2030, the Alberta driver will pay a carbon tax that is 14 cents per litre of gas more than a driver in Quebec. Do Quebec's emissions not impact climate change? No, here's what is happening. Quebec's special deal proves that Trudeau's carbon tax was always about politics, not saving the planet. When crafting the carbon tax, the government never truly asked the people. Everyone wants a better environment. You won't find opposition to that. But did anyone ask Canadians if they support carbon taxes, even though it means average families will be out hundreds of dollars every single year? Did anyone ask Canadians if they support carbon taxes, even though most countries don't? With this carve-out, Trudeau displayed rank regional favoritism, and it wasn't the first time he's done so. But his real mistake was not a carve-out that favors predominantly Atlantic Canadians. His real mistake was imposing a carbon tax on the people in the first place. The people never truly bought what he was selling. And putting all your eggs into a tax that makes it more expensive for people to stay warm, to stay fed, to stay alive isn't a winning ticket. And Trudeau is learning that lesson the hard way.